What's going on, guys? Sounds so fucking Canadian, bud. What's going on, everyone? So today we're continuing with the wiring harness here. I got it laid out here so far. I was able to shove the connectors down in here. It wasn't easy, but it went in. Now, if anything, I have more than I thought I would need of slack to get it in there. So that is good. I'll actually show you in the car where these connectors come out. Pull this carpet back again, and they're hanging right here. So if I get that clutch pedal out of the way, put the carpet back, I don't think I'll have a problem mounting it somewhere along the back here against the firewall or whatever like that. So that's good news. Moving on to all this mess now, having the intake flipped around definitely throws a little bit of a wrench into things here. So the way this has got to work now is the wiring harness is kind of almost backwards with the intake, because instead of the map sensor being at the back, it's at the front, but that's not the worst scenario. The worst actually is probably the throttle body wiring, and I guess the injectors, because they got to match banks and everything in order to control fueling, right? Because your O2 sensors are reading certain banks, and now if these are flipped around, it's not going to be able to trim itself. So for the most part, it's okay. There's a couple of connectors here. I got to look up and double check what they're for. This one actually, because we run it like this is the back of the motor, even though it's the front, we're stuck here with the O2 sensor wiring harness, and I think that's for the MAF sensor, 5-wire. Could be wrong, but I'm not going to run a map on this anyways. I'm probably going to run it in speed density. I think this is for the coolant reservoir, which I can get rid of. So this is pretty much total loss, this whole strip here. I can take the rear O2s out with the tune. Won't need those. And then, yeah, just figure out where the rest of everything goes. Again, it's working out a lot better than I thought it was going to. And then the other thing we're going to need to do is these are all your powers and probably feeds to your cluster and maybe data. Whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to simplify it down here. So in here we'll have your powers for your injectors, your transmission, your PCM. You can slim a lot of this down, as I'm sure a lot of you know. All these pink wires are all their separate powers. We're just going to cut those up and merge them into a few. And then we actually have in this fuse box a post that ran a post that ran the factory computer and all the accessories on it and through that post. So I'm assuming that's fused because I can see the wire running inside to a fuse box there. And I'll check the capacity on that fuse and see if it's close to what we need. And worst case scenario, I can just feed it ignition power, and what we'll do is we'll probably have a little bit of extra room. I can put a little tiny fuse box in there. So have one for your injectors, transmission, and so on. That way, if there's a problem with the power, we can narrow it down right there and it'll be nice and simple. So now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this harness all back out, and we're going to slim it right down. We're going to get rid of everything we don't need and just strip it right down. And that'll help with putting all this bulk of wire in there too. That'll make it a lot cleaner. Okay, so we got the wiring harness out of the car. I got it laid down, and I'm going to start tearing it down and simplifying it, get rid of everything that we don't need, starting from the front all the way to the back. So it's been a few hours now. I've gone ahead and removed all the pins that I won't be needing from the ECU connectors, and then I've got my external wires like my fuel pump relay and fan outputs, powers, and all that sort of stuff. And I am working my way back the harness here. As you can see, I've cut all these wires that I have to follow through here and remove to slim it right down. So I still got to get rid of a lot of these power lines that run to your injectors, coils, MAF sensor, O2 sensors. What some people do is they'll just cut them here and solder them and then put the one wire to the fuse box, but you're still passing all these powers through the whole harness. So I'm going to actually, like here, if you can see, cut your 3 injector powers here and then send one single wire to the top. So I got 2 banks of injectors, so there's 2 wires there, and then some other various stuff there that I have to go through still. So it's getting pretty late right now. It's almost midnight, so I'm going to pick this back up tomorrow. It's day number 2 now. We're going to try to get back on this wiring harness and hopefully have it done by the end of the night. Yeah, so that's not working out too well. I think this solder's trash. We'll go grab another roll. Okay, so got some more solder. We'll try this again. Okay, so that's a little better now. I guess I'm just using the wrong solder. I'll throw this piece of heat shrink on there and tape her up and keep moving on. So that's everything we've eliminated. And now this is the harness we got. Much more organized and easy to work with, and hopefully it looks a little bit better. The only thing we got to do now is cut and label all the powers that we're going to join together for the fuses. I've eliminated all the extra ones throughout the harness, so those are just the ones that we need. And what I actually want to do before I completely wrap it up is lay it back on the engine here and move some sensors around. For example, O2 sensors, where they run down the transmission harness here. Well, the O2 sensors aren't going to be going down the transmission because the exhaust manifolds are coming forward now. So if we're going to have a pipe come down under here, we're going to have to put an O2 sensor there. If we're going to have another pipe coming off here, you need an O2 sensor here. So those sensors are going to probably have to run at the end of the fuel injector harness here. So we're going to have to move those around. Another thing I'm not sure with is if we put a turbo on it, where do those O2 sensors move? Do they handle pre-turbo back pressure? Do they get an accurate reading like that? I've never seen an O2 sensor before turbos. And then the other question is, well, you have this turbo here with both banks and now you have a single out. So what happens to both banks? Is you just slim it down to one bank that it's going to be reading off? This is just something I don't know, and I'm sure it's answered out there, but that's what I'm going to have to look up. For now, I'm just going to get the harness and lay it on the engine and just move the connectors around to where I'm going to need them to be. So it's the next weekend now. I'm getting back onto the wiring here. I've eliminated the 2 O2 sensors and just merged it into one. I've taken it out of this transmission harness because it runs down the back there, and I've rerouted it back all the way up to the beginning of the harness. So you can see I've got both of them tied into there, and I've got both of them right here. And then here's your heater circuit. And I'll get more into that after why I put that there, but we'll keep going down the line here. We've got the alternator, and then we're just gonna have your engine coolant temp and your crank sensor run down the block there behind the starter. And then you can see it kind of fits in these channels like awesome. Like I can put little caps on here or harness holders, screw them into this plastic, have this run under there for the transmission harness, and then this runs down these channels, which is awesome too. I did shorten the MAP sensor harness because it came all the way down here and I didn't need that, so I cut it, soldered it. Now it's nice and clean there. And then this half of it here is for the fuel injectors, coil, and the drive-by-wire connector. So that's going to actually run underneath here. I just didn't want to run because then I have to pull it back out again to pull the intake manifold off. But that's kind of a rough idea where it's going to be. And that's pretty much it. Like that harness is really slimmed down. Like all this is gone. Basically anything we don't need from it, it's gone. This harness will just get the engine running, and that's pretty much that. Once I get this all wrapped up, it should look nice and clean. Oh, and also when deleting your mass airflow sensor, the intake air temperature sensor is integrated in that sensor. So what you're gonna need to do is either keep the mass airflow sensor or put a separate one in somewhere else. I was scrolling down the sloppy page on Facebook there, and I saw, I think Matt was saying something about smashing a one from a 3.8, I think. I can't remember what it was, but apparently it fits in there pretty good. So I pulled the harness all out through here and fed the air intake temperature wires, left them right there so I can wire that up after. And then another thing I found was these hoses off the intake manifold here no longer fit in the spot because the intake manifold's turned around. So what I figured out is I can just take the valve covers off and switch them. That would bring this hole right over here and this breather right here, which goes to this nipple here, which is, it'll be like it was from the factory. The only thing that's gonna suck is the oil cap is gonna have to go where this hole is, which isn't a huge deal. I mean, I can have to fill the oil right here, but you know, it's not. There's factory cars that are even worse than that. So I guess moving on to this O2 sensor now again. I'm trying to get some rough estimates on how big the S480 is, because I probably something along that lines is what I'm gonna want to go to. But I'm not be going there right this second, but I still want to get the exhaust in place because I don't want to do the whole thing twice. So if I can get it set up like it's going to be turbocharged and just run a blank downpipe right off a turbo flange, then that saves me a bunch of time and might as well just do it now. So I'm going to put the turbo on this side since this side doesn't have enough room down the side, like I said in an earlier video. So far, I think I've come to the conclusion where I'm going to use something similar to a passenger side manifold. Have a flange come off here and bolt it to the turbo, and then have the downpipe running in through here. Now there's not a lot of room, but it's the most room in any configuration that I've tried to do. Like I've tried to have it where this is pointing down and have it going through the back there, but there's no way that's gonna fit. Like I've tried a bunch of things, and I really don't want it to dump out the front of the car. I want it to go down the back. And so far this is the way that it looks like it's going to be the best way to do it. But I'm going to try looking for maybe a Corvette manifold or something aftermarket that kind of brings this log closer to the valve cover, but I don't want it to interfere with the coils. I might have to just relocate them and then run the wires separately. But if I can get this a little bit closer and have this flange further back so I can mount the, because I believe the S480 is about 11 inches long, somewhere around there, ballpark. And then just mount it there. And then when I have this pipe come down, have it come down around and have it come straight up here and feed it into here somehow. But I'm gonna have to find a manifold that's gonna fit well with that. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I think I'm pretty much done this harness. I just want to make sure that it's got all the wires I need, because the last thing I want to do is tape the whole thing up and then down the road is like, oh, I need to add this wire for a sensor or this wire for temperature gauge or whatever. Like I don't want to have all these strands of wire outside the harness, and then it just makes all this work I did a waste of time. So I'm going to leave it off there. I'm going to get this wiring wrapped up and cross that off the list. Then we still need to mount the computer inside the car. And I think the next thing I'm going to try to do is mount that pedal, because there's not a lot of room there and that looks like it's going to be a pain. And be sure to hit that subscribe button, because we're going to keep going on this thing. And we'll probably hit some more hurdles and get it sorted out. So hopefully this is a help to anyone who is wanting to do this. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.